Good afternoon, Poet fans. Welcome to another edition of Poet Sports Report, here brought to you by the Whittier College Sports Network. I'm Lance Franney, joined by Thomas Harrison, and we're going to have a great show for you today. We've had a lot going on here in Poet Athletics for the past 2 weeks, so we have a lot to cover here in a short amount of time. But first things first, football. Coming off a bye week and a victory over Lewis and Clark, a 20-3 victory for our 23-10 victory for us, And we're coming up on our SCIAC opener against Cal Lutheran University this coming Saturday. A powerhouse in the SCIAC conference, high-octane offense at that. But what did you like, Thomas, last game when we took on Lewis and Clark? And what are the keys for us moving forward against this big matchup with Cal Lutheran?
Well, what I liked, Lance, what I saw in the second half, the offense picked up the tempo, opened up running lanes. Steven Rivera, very accurate with the football. But the first half, in both games, only 3 points offense. And that was a Lewis and Clark team that came in giving up 50 points per game. So not a defensive powerhouse by any means. Cal Lutheran, very tough opponent, very good quarterback play, and the best prescription to negate that is to run the football, keep him off the field, keep that high-octane offense at bay. So you really have to run the football. And I challenge these wide receivers as well to help out Rivera, get the separation you need. And the short passing game is almost like an extension of the running game. So hit those passes and get positive yards on first down.
And that's going to be one of the keys, too. We've seen in the past receivers dropping the ball here for the Poets. Opportunities against Whitworth and Lewis and Clark where we've dropped touchdown passes, first down passes. We've had those opportunities, but we just haven't been able to click and really make those big grabs when we need to. This past game in that fourth quarter, that's where we really saw the offense come alive and just really see what they can do. But moving forward, the defense is really going to have to step up for the third straight game. And if you don't score against Cal Lutheran, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because that's going to be a lot of pressure put on the defense, especially with a young quarterback like they have, who's probably one of the best in the country that's running that offensive unit there for them. So a lot to look forward to for this upcoming game. It's going to be a 5 o'clock start this coming Saturday. Moving into volleyball. Probably one of the big teams that's really moving forward and progressing with the young squad. They went 1-2 this past week, a 4-set loss to number 18 Claremont Mudd Scripps. They also took on Redlands 1 in 5 sets, but then they bounced back on Saturday to upset Chapman in 5 sets on the road in Orange. And that's the first time the volleyball team's ever being Chapman University in the program's history. So hats off to Chris Duarte McDermott. A job well done for those ladies. But what have you seen from these girls? I mean, they're really turning it around.
Well, we broadcast the game Wednesday, and I think it all started there. They played Claremont McKenna. They came in at, I believe, 11-3. We were 2-6, and we took the first set from them. And it was a really impressive set because we were down early, 5-0, and the girls rallied back and took that set. The game kind of got away from them in the second and third, but we played them tight again in that fourth set, and I think the energy and the camaraderie, it was really palpable in that game, and I think they did a good job of playing together, and they played a really good team right down to the wire. And I think it started with that, and then you mentioned the upset of Chapman. The first time we've done that, and you got to look back on the Wednesday and the game before that, and I think that really built upon. And for this young team, that's huge. And I think when we get deeper into SCIAC play, they're really going to show themselves and really going to be a team to reckon with.
So this coming week, they're going to be taking on Caltech Tuesday night at 7:30. That's going to be streamed live on the Whittier College Sports Network. They then go on the road and face off against Laverne, who's sitting about 2-3 in the conference standings right now. They've turned it around from a year ago, and they have some very young, talented individuals on that squad. That's going to be Friday evening, and I'm sure that's going to be streamed by the University of Laverne. So a couple big matchups here for the Poets this coming week. They do have Saturday off, which is good, so they can rest, but a lot to be looking forward to with that program as they continue going deeper into SCIAC play. Moving into water polo. The men's team just returned from a trip to Davis, California, up north, where they took part in the Aggie Shootout. They took on 4 teams, and these aren't going to be the typical 4 teams you can play any given day. These are going to be 4 perennial powerhouses in water polo. They started off playing number 13 Santa Clara. They then took on number 3 UC Berkeley. They then faced off against the host, number 10 UC Davis. And then, to cap things off, they took on number 2 Stanford University. So again, big-time programs up there. Poets finished 1-3 on the tournament, but the big win for them was an upset victory over Santa Clara in the first game of the shootout, ranked 13 in the country, and we ended up pulling off a victory 10-9. We're currently ranked 19 in the country, and we came over and we upset them, which was huge to start the entire thing off. Granted, we, played against some bigger schools like the Berkeleys and the Stanfords that, kind of were lopsided, one-sided, but against Stanford, we scored the most points against them for the entire tournament compared to any other opponent. So we actually showed that we can actually score against a high-octane team like them. But then also with the host, that was one of the games we were looking forward to, thought we could maybe upset them there at their own place, but ended up not being able to, losing a tight one there as well. But what have you liked with this team?
The competitiveness. They go up to a very difficult tournament up there. They upset Santa Clara 10-9 in the first game, and then they played, some of the upper echelon teams in the whole NCAA water polo. You mentioned Stanford, always top 5 team. But they've looked great, honestly. Once they get into sky play, things will get easier for them. I liken it to swinging a baseball bat with a donut on it. You get the heavy swings out of the way. Once you take that off, you get into the easier play. Everything's faster, sleeker, and it comes easier for you. So I really like this team. I think they could win the SCIAC championship, no question in my mind.
So they're definitely favored to do that. And they're going to be coming up. They have the Gary Troyer tournament out in the Claremont area this coming weekend. They're going to be taking on George Washington, Washington and Jefferson, and MIT out there. So there's going to be some tough matchups once again for them. And then following that, they're going to have the SoCals hosted by UCLA in their final tournament of the season right before conference play starts. So again, some more tough matchups for that men's water polo team, but we're definitely looking forward to some nice wins hopefully coming up in the next couple weeks. So now moving over into soccer. Women's soccer has been held scoreless in the Sky Conference so far. They're coming off a 1-0 loss to Redlands, a game that they pretty much controlled every facet of, but just ended up getting unlucky in the first half when one of the goals was scored for Redlands. But what's Monica going to have to do in order to find that offense, get some goals scored? She lost her starter, Maddie Shepard, to a foot injury. She's lost Ashley Stanford. They've lost a couple other starters who haven't been able to play. What is she going to have to do to turn around this program to get more than that one win that they have on the season?
Well, you mentioned the injuries, and it's tough for any team to overcome those injuries. So you look to the backups for them to step up, and they'll get better as the season progresses on. Like you mentioned, they controlled every facet. The possession time is there. The defensive line is good. But the offense isn't clicking, and the strikers, they just can't find the back of the net. But I look for that to remedy itself later down. Offense takes great chemistry, great timing, and that'll come, especially with these backups in. You gotta like what you've seen from the midfielders, defensive line. So I think this team will get better as Sky play moves on.
And they've had the opportunities to score. They're not getting outshot 21-3. I mean, they're right in there with 10 shots a game. They're getting the opportunities and the chances. They just haven't been able to connect and find the back of the goal. So they're going to be on the road this coming Wednesday as they take on Cal Lutheran University, the Regals. That's going to be a tough matchup. Regals are having a down year this year, so hopefully we can try and go on the road and steal one away and really turn this season around, and hopefully we'll start right there. On the men's side, right now they're 2-3-1 in conference play. They just lost 4-0 to Claremont Mudd-Scripps, one of the powerhouses in the conference. They also lost 3-2 to Pomona Pitzer, another strong team in the conference. And moving forward, they got Redlands this coming Wednesday when we host them for Rage the Cage night. And it just doesn't get any easier for the Poets. But right now, they haven't been blown out this season yet. And this is the first time that we've really seen some issues here with this program. 1 goal scored in the first half, 3 in the second half. Now, 2 of those goals probably were a little controversial. One was a handball in the box. The player ended up hitting in. Probably thought that could have been a handball. There was also another one where one of the players was offsides. That probably should have been called, and everyone kind of stopped playing. He kicked in one of those goals there. So definitely unlucky for the Poets in that game. But again, Chapman lost in double overtime. Pomona, they ended up losing by a goal as well. I mean, what are the Poets going to have to do to make a statement here in this conference? And you see some of the subs. A lot of starters are sitting on the bench, and he puts them in the second unit. And he has a lot of young players starting in that lineup, but they are very talented. There's so much talent on that team, but where do they move forward with this?
Well, it's been a relatively disappointing season thus far for the men's soccer team.
It started off great.
Well, I think they lost sight of their identity. that identity is a strong back line, good midfield play. Keep the scoring low and win those kind of 2-0 games, 1-0 games. And you look at the scores for the last games, they've all been blowouts, they've surrendered goals. And, the offense isn't exactly a strength to this team, so you want to play into your strengths. Play a lot of possession football, play a lot of, midfield passing, and then you open up the defense and, get the quick strike when you can. But so I look for them to maybe go back to that. I think the coach has a lot of soul searching to do. I don't know if he's just as worried as we are about where the soccer team is going. But I look for them to rebound nicely. They have to, as you mentioned, they have too much talent. They have too much depth for the record to reflect what they are today.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of depth in that team. Players from all over the world that have come here to play soccer for us, because we are known to be a very strong soccer program here for the men. And I feel Shea Harwell is very talented as a coach. And I guarantee you he's going to be able to regroup his team, and they'll be able to come out and fired up for this game coming up this Wednesday as we host Redlands here at Rage the Cage, 7 o'clock Wednesday night. That game is going to be streamed live as well on the Whittier College Sports Network. Moving into our last sport, cross country, both the men's and women's teams. Still in non-conference play. They haven't made it to the Sky Multi-Duels or the championships, but one of the big things we saw, both the men's and women's teams got invited to the Stanford Invitational. That's an invite where you have to be chosen, and both teams ended up getting invited to it with Division I teams, a few D2 teams. We had a couple of SCIAC schools that also went, but with this invite that they took part in, how is that going to help our team moving forward to conference play, the multi-duels, the championships?
Well, as in like all those tournaments, you play an assortment of teams, a lot of really tough teams in there, middle of the road. So it gives you like an array, and it really gives you a good test on how good your squad is. I know this is a very young cross-country team. I know it's a small squad and maybe limited in the amount of games they could participate in. But it's just a great test for the young squad there, and I think getting into conference play, like I mentioned earlier, well, you play the tougher schools, it gives you a better idea, and it gives you a better toughness going into conference play.
Okay, coming up this schedule this week, we have volleyball Tuesday night 7:30 as we host Caltech. Again, that game is going to be streamed live on the Whittier College Sports Network. We then have Wednesday evening, men's soccer is going to be hosting Redlands here at 7 p.m. at the Donald Graham Soccer Field. That game also is going to be streamed live on the Whittier College Sports Network. And then this coming weekend, we're going to be having football here at 5 o'clock as the Poets open up Sky Play as they host Cal Lutheran University. Once again, that game is going to be at 5 o'clock. That's going to do it here for our segment on the Poet Sports Report. I'm Lance Franey, joined by Thomas Harrison. Stay tuned for next week's edition, where we're going to have Special Assistant to the President and Executive Director of Athletics, Robert Coleman, joining us here on the set. So make sure you tune in.